After doing plenty of research on ovarian cyst and calling doctors nonstop in order to get in for surgery, I had a consultation mid-June. On Friday, literally the day before my wedding, I got a call that my surgery would be the following Friday, literally a week later. I could take that date, or I would otherwise have to wait till October. And I'd lose my Medi-Cal by then, since my renewal period was coming up, and at that point I was making too much money to continue qualifying. So the week after getting married, I had to do plenty of consultations, phone calls, and tests, which was incredibly stressful to get everything in so last minute. I was also doing lots of research as to whether I should leave an ovary in or not, or just take them both out, and this was where I was really lacking information, especially when it comes to trans individuals. Now, some people said to leave one ovary in. That way your body can still produce its own hormones, especially if you feel that you might be unable to get hormone therapy in the future, or that you might just lose it altogether. If you want biological kids, it would also be wise to keep an ovary in, so that way you can have biological kids using IVF. Now, I'm not going to go into IVF. I did do plenty of research on that, though, because before all these health issues had started, my husband and I had talked about if we wanted biological kids or not, and I was just looking into IVF. And for IVF to happen, especially with both of our genetics, I would need to have an ovary with all the eggs, and they would take the eggs and do their thing. But in the end, we both agreed that no, we'd rather adopt kids to save some kids' lives and give them a better home. Plus, there's too many humans on this earth to begin with, so we shouldn't be bringing in more humans. But if having a biological kid is very important to you, I recommend that you do leave an ovary in, so that way you can still have the opportunity to use IVF, which is very insanely expensive and not covered by insurance. But do keep in mind, if you leave your ovary in, your health issues are likely to continue, though they might be less extreme. I'm not really sure on that. Other people said that they removed both ovaries and hormone therapy wasn't enough for them afterwards. But most of these people were not trans individuals, they were just cis women who only took estrogen after their surgery. Bodies need estrogen and testosterone, and the lack of testosterone was what seemed to be causing these women all these issues still. Of course, despite researching a crazy amount of these medical issues during this time period, I'm not a doctor, and you should seek a professional opinion regarding this. Now, I decided to get both ovaries removed. I was scared of the possibility of having more cysts develop on the other ovary in the future, allowing these issues to continue, or risk having one rupture. And the more cysts you have, the more likely that one will be infected. And if it ruptures, it can kill you as easily as a burst appendix. I also figured that my ovaries weren't working anyway, so there was just no point to me keeping them in. June 28th, 2024, I had a laparoscopic oophorectomy performed by Dr. Rees of UCSD. I did the shower with the special cleaning solution the night before and the morning of. We had to be at the hospital super early, as I was the first surgery of the day. Dr. Rees gets a huge shout out here, as she understood exactly all the pain I was going through and how badly I needed this surgery, that she stuffed me into her busy schedule very last minute. I will forever be thankful to her for this, as well as for performing the operation itself, of course, in the first place. The surgery went mostly fine. The doctors scraped my stomach by mistake, but it was a tiny nick, nothing happened, it wasn't really a big deal, but they did want me to stay in the hospital overnight in order to monitor it, and I also wasn't really allowed to eat anything until the following day, starting off with veggie broth. As I slept all day, I was wide awake that night and just kind of walking around the hospital, which was quite the experience. And then, of course, I was going to the bathroom a lot because of all the IV fluids, and there's definitely blood, so just be aware that there's going to be blood again. And it was a little painful to go. Thankfully, the next day I was doing quite fine, and I was able to go home in the late afternoon. Now, after having all of these surgeries, I can confirm that this surgery was the most painful one I had. That night that I went back home, my left side actually had such sharp pain that would come and go, that I thought they had messed something up on this side, or that it was on this side that my stomach got scraped or something. I actually had to use an opioid medication to stifle the pain, which I really try not to use that type of stuff. But like I had to just use it because it was that extreme. Now it turns out that it was actually just the gas trapped in my body. Usually you feel the gas in your shoulder, according to a lot of different accounts, but for me it was down like where the incisions were. I was out of work for 6 weeks and on disability the entire time. I didn't go back to martial arts until I had already returned to work. This surgery was just more intense and painful that I took things much more slowly, being sure to ease back into them. And this is another reminder to get into exercise to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles and avoid pelvic organ prolapse. Now, it was a good decision I got both ovaries removed because both ovaries had been covered in cysts. You could not even see the ovaries underneath one of the cysts because the cyst was that big. While I considered only removing the left ovary because that was the one that had the 2 centimeter cyst in the ER's ultrasound, it was actually my right ovary that had the big cyst, which was 5 centimeters, or the size of a tangerine. So, probably about that. It had grown that big in less than a month because it did not show up on that ultrasound at the ER. And because it was so big, the doctors had to pop it in my body. Like it was covered in a bag, but they had to pop it in my body in order to remove it. Now, I don't have a total bill for how much all of this would have cost because Medi-Cal had covered it, thankfully. But I imagine it would have been a very expensive procedure, especially with having to stay overnight.